Namaste, Jai Bharat. Elections are going on in my nation. I haven't mentioned anything about elections ongoing in my nation. It's not that I'm apolitical, I'm not apolitical. I have a very definite understanding about politics, which should be the case in a political democracy. That has to be the case. A citizen ought not to stay away from democratic process, that too the largest and the most stable and the strong democracy in the entire world. Now, what ought to be the attitude of an archetype citizen in such election processes? Who do one vote? Who one should select as his representative? I've mentioned a couple of times before that let's start with the postulate Rashtraya Swaha Idam na Mama. Let's look at the political process in the interest of the nation. Once the nation is stable, strong, and steady, it goes by default that each individual citizen of the nation is equally taken care of. So, one should vote for a cosmic or a general good which is in the interest of nation. There may be many personalities, but let's see who works for the nation and select him. There are leaders giving promises, political promises. Why should a citizen take such promises for face value? Most of the leaders, perhaps all of them, have their own history, background of making promises and not fulfilling it. Look at the history of the rule which is in front of you. This is a time of social media where you can individually access information of your choice. What you want to know, you can. People cannot hide things from you effectively for a long time. Maybe they succeed for some time, but certainly not for a long time. There are underplays that happens in international arena which you might not know, which would call for an analyst to understand. Like, for instance, there may be agencies in different places who would want to destabilize a nation, which happens in case of my nation, because they have corporate interests, or maybe some other interests, or maybe some other business interests they may have. So they might not want a nation like that of mine, Bharat, to be consistently strong. That is some agencies, some pockets, some groups. These underplays you may not understand immediately. At once you may not understand. One needs to be an analyst, or one has to go for analyzing situations which are complex. But that is not the case with a very, very open kind of an election that happens in this nation, where the leaders come and keeps talking to you through media, of course, and many times through through direct speeches. And let's see what they talk. and what they had been talking in the past for however years, and what were the promises they were making, and what were the results. In the sense, they made promises when the election comes, and when the election is over, to what extent they could fulfill their promises, to what extent they were executed. All these things one can look at. And with that background history, you can find out whom to vote for. Whom to vote for. Somebody, a leader who's really trying to fulfill his promises. If he honestly and sincerely tries to fulfill his promises, then that man is correct for you. Vote for him. Because he is trying. Whether he succeeds fully or not, maybe is maybe contingent upon many other circumstances or criteria. But then he tries honestly, and that is sufficient. Give him another chance to try again. Let him keep trying. That should be the attitude, number one. Then, in the past, when the social media or the information explosion did not happen in the past, many of the political scientists I've come across there were depending on political theories of the Europe. It is not the case that only Europe has political theories. Only Europe has academic political theories, but much before that, Bharat had their own political understanding and instruction, not really like the theories, but knowledge about politics, etc. We had in textual form long before, and it's not one test, there are many. Now, one political thinker who comes to my mind right now is this Machiavelli. Machiavelli. Many other students must have come across Machiavellian theories, primarily his book, Prince, and other writings. There's something very interesting he says, which I talk about Machiavelli because I've seen many politicians of today, without really, many of them do not know who Machiavelli was, but then without really understanding it, they actually do such things. For instance, let's see which part I wanted to quote from or pick up from Machiavelli's Prince and other writings. And he says something very interesting. A prince, in other words, the ruler, need not have all the qualities, or he need not have any quality at all. But he has to make his people believe that he has these big lists of qualities. People are now going to know it. He should make the people believe he has a long list of qualities. These qualities he has, so he is entitled to or is eligible to rule, become your ruler. Now, the context is different. In Machiavellian context is different. But make the people think that this man is really, really, really good, great. He should be ruling us. Now, I've already told you, Machiavelli says that it is not at all necessary for that person to have any of the qualities which he claims to be having. Then Machiavelli says something, how this deception can be done. This, of course, is a deception. Intellectual deception. Much later we find Gramsci saying it as intellectual deception of social domination. Yes, it is the same thing. To socially dominate, you must intellectually deceive the people. In the context of Machiavelli, to make people believe that he has all this eligibility or qualities to rule. That is intellectual legitimization of social domination. Much later, in Gramsci, he calls it as hegemony. Now, how can this be done? We have lot of instruments today at our hand which can make this thing happen. Many instruments it is. Some people call it as PR works or public relations work or propaganda in the context of Hitler. Propaganda. Now you make news spread. You propagate what you want people to believe. Then you get these things into people's ears and subsequently into their minds that these are phenomena. But Machiavelli sums it up in just one sentence. He says, a prince need not have all the qualities which he is supposed to be possessing. It is sufficient. It's enough that if he makes people believe that he has all these qualities. And this is important. And if he's a prince, he knows how best to deceive people. If he's a prince, he knows how best to deceive his people. He knows. He knows what are the methods to be done. What are the methods to be done through which you can make people think. But then, today, as of now, these things need not to work. But though it works, that's very strange. Need not to work because every citizen has direct access to knowing things through his mobile phones. The social media is so much. And social media itself may be involved in this, but then there are always alternatives. You can see this, you can see that also. So you must find out which leader can execute his promises and which leader is honest in his effort to execute his promises. Well, then it becomes easy. Select him. And of course, you must keep the interest of the nation first. Because nation is what we are. And anything happens to the nation happens to you. Anything that happens to a nation shall immediately, at once, happens to you. Think that. Take it in that way. What happens to my nation happens to me first. Let that consciousness sit in. Let there be 1,000 parties. Let there be 2,000 leaders. Let there be all kinds of propaganda. Let there be all kinds of promises and promises and promises. But you must know which is what. Which is what you must know. Now, see, the promises are really, really funny things. You see, religions, I'm talking about religion. I make a distinction between dharma and religion. Religions, in many times, or in many cases, thrive through two things. Where the religious authority wants people to listen to them. So this is important. There is a religion and there is a religious authority. And this religious authority may change name, attire, places, but there always shall be an element as religious authority. This religious authority wants to control people as such, people per se. And they have this method, promises of rewards and fear of punishment. Fear of punishment and promises of reward. These are the two horns through which a religion is manipulated and religious authority thrives. Let's make a distinction between the custodians of religion, religious authorities, and religion as it is. Suppose you treat religion as your personal affair, then the authority doesn't have much role in it. Religion ought to be your personal affair, and let nobody come in between you and the kind of God you believe in, if you believe in a God. Why should somebody else represent a God that you believe in Why should somebody else represent that God to you? Are you not worthy of trusting in a God and praying Him? Indeed, you are worthy. You don't need somebody else in between. You don't need somebody to tell you about the right way and wrong way. No. If there is a God that you believe in Him, when you honestly do, that becomes the right way. That's pure logic. When you honestly and sincerely do anything, that should be the way. Why should somebody else stipulate do's and don'ts to you? So let nobody dictate a methodology to you. You be independent. And like Kant would say, at some point he says that man is autonomous. To what extent man in Kant is autonomous is open for philosophical debates. But why can't one try to be autonomous and do things of his own? You really need help in many places from others, but then at least for thinking, that thought autonomy should be there. Thinking autonomy should be there. Let nobody dictate you do's and don'ts. At least you're grown up. And when you're grown up, you can listen to others, but once things are convincing, only you obey. Well, that's exactly what one learns from the Mimamsa thinking. You hear. If it is convincing, you just go. If it is not convincing, say no. So religions thrive through these two methods of promises of rewards. And then, promises of rewards. You do these. After you die, you get all those things. Why? After you die, you get all those things. Not when you're alive. Not when you're alive. And if you don't obey, after you die, you'll be punished. And what kind of very, very, very dull kind of creative punishments people propagate. And also very dull kind of promises of rewards also people give. Very, very primitive kind of minds. I would say the primitive promises and primitive rewards. And primitive kind of punishments, very, very harsh. Which childlike imagination kind of punishments people say. Anyway. So, vote the right person or the right thought system. Of course, you can't accuse the political leaders. They all want authority and power. And many times, many people, at least some people, want authority and power to make the nation better. Some people want authority and power to make themselves better. These specimens are more. Those who want to make themselves better, that kind of specimens are more in practically fine. And there are people, I don't want to take names. There are people in politics who are in regions, in states, who would keep telling lies. And the people do understand they speak lies. But then they still belong to them. They still support them. They still vote for them. And in all such cases, they don't care about what happens to society, what happens to the nation. The thing is that they don't see beyond their noses. A foresight program for tomorrow should be there, steady. A project for tomorrow. How you are going to take your nation for the days to come. How you are going to lead your nation for days to come. And there is an all-round thought. The leaders should project an all-round thought of becoming economically strong and becoming politically strong. Political strength really comes from the unity of people and also militarily strong. See, the world always had this thing. If you're militarily strong, then you're a strong nation. Nobody will dare to take you for a ride. Otherwise, you have multiple justice in the world. Then also, now also. X can do anything and nobody will ask, but Y cannot do that. You have these multiple standards, not double standards. This multiple standard and logic running around you. And those who are involved behind it are really nitwits, let me say that. They are just concerned only about themselves. Do they think that others don't understand? Yes, people understand. Those who understand, they don't speak. They don't speak. Many times they don't speak because they realize there is no point in speaking. There is no point for various reasons, whatever they may be. You can contemplate, you can think for yourself. So the point is, let's not be involved, let's not be subject to the Machiavellian deception, and let's not be subject to the religious kind of promises of rewards. And that some people in our present day in Bharat, they also imply some threat. If we don't come in power, these things will happen. Somebody has told, I will do this, I will do that. Anyway, let that somebody be somebody. So, why should one knowingly that promises of rewards, and in case of religion, promises of reward is posthumous after you die. And is it not a matter of common sense that nobody had ever experienced it? Nor is any evidence for anybody having experiencing that. These are all people say, and they say this through a kind of the Machiavellian deception. It's all deceptions. I'm not against religion. I'm not against faith in God. It's your individual choice. I told you before, I'm a Mimamsaka otherwise, and I'm perfectly with the Shankaracharya. When you find believing in something is comforting, you do believe. Shankaracharya, who lived only for 32 years, that's not a matter of joke, it's very interesting, who was not really in support of ritualism, but he never asked people not to do rituals, number one. And the person who was in Advaita Vedanti, he's Advaitin, he has also written that mighty text of Saundara Lahari. They are not contradiction. They don't contradict different levels of mind, or for you, different frames of mind. So, elections, you vote the right person who can do the right thing, or you try to vote the right team. This right team should make the nation strong. The nation is strong, you are strong. The people are united, the nation is united. Rigveda's last sukta, the last sukta of Rigveda says, you together you stand. Together you stand. You become strong. And you go from strength to strength. That somebody should do to the nation. Because whatever happens to nation, good or bad, rest assured and be sure happens to you directly. So, let's not do mistakes in casting votes. Many phases of elections are gone. I have voted. You should also vote. And vote the right leader. Right leader, a right team who would make the nation appropriately nation. I used to tell even before that we'll have to really go from India to Bharat. That should mean something. We have to go from India to Bharat. Should mean something. Let's try to make India Bharat, which is required, where you have your locus. You know how you enjoy reading a novel. or I enjoy watching a movie. See, the characters created in the novel, if it represents you, you will enjoy more. Same thing in case of a film. Somewhere the characters will be somewhere representing you, somehow, to some extent. If it happens, you become one with that visual. What visual? And also with reading also is a kind of visual. In fact, much more creative. It is subjective, but reading is much more creatively visual. You are experiencing very vividly. You can't miss out a point. In films on the screen, you miss out so many things, but not while reading. When you see yourselves, you enjoy it more. See, you can put it the other way around also. The writer is a great writer because he creates such characters which would represent all of you. When you read, you think it's you, it's you. X reads, he will think it is he, and so on. For everyone. So that is creativity. That's the ability to create characters in a novel. So let me ask you to vote meaningfully, vote just, vote the right person. Those who had already voted also fine. But always think for the nation. Idam na mama is important, though it's very difficult to achieve. But Rashtraya Swaha, one can. Think in terms of it. Think about the nation. Think about the leaders who will make your nation strong in order to make you strong. Whatever happens to the nation happens to you. So let's go with the nation in support of the nation, and let's do away with those who function, work, think against the nation. We'll meet again with another system of thoughts. Till then, Namaste, Jai Bharat, Jai Shri Ram.